All right, hello, how's everybody doing? I'm Jeremy Langlois, coming to you from Houmas House Estate and Gardens. Hope my cooking family out there is doing great. Man, welcome to another Thursday. We're ready to do some cooking. I've already got some stuff going, so we're just going to kind of jump in and talk about what we're cooking today. So today we're cooking a classic down-home Louisiana comfort food dish, and that is chicken sauce piquant. And I'll get to what that word means in a second, but let me just kind of show you what I got going on in here already. I already have a cup of oil in a nice black iron pot that I heated up. And if Jesse, if you just want to show what we got going down in here, I started off with a couple chicken breasts that I just quickly seasoned with some salt and pepper, and I started to brown them in that oil. And now all I'm doing is I'm going to take this out. Got some good color on each side. I'm going to take that out, set this to the side. And now we're going to kind of jump right in. I just wanted to get that a little head start. That takes about 5 or 10 minutes. Just not worried about cooking it all the way through because we're going to come back later and stew that chicken for the sauce piquant. But I wanted to go ahead and get that browned off, and then he's still cooking on high, still have that oil nice and hot in here. And now I'm going to start to make a dark roux in here. So I have my oil in here, and then I'm going to put in my flour, and then I've switched over to a whisk. And I'm just going to start whisking this flour into here. All right, so while that's cooking, let's kind of talk about what we're trying to do here today. First of all, sauce piquant. Jesse, what you know about sauce piquant? Do you know the origins of the word sauce piquant as it relates to Louisiana cooking?
Well,
Jesse.
I'm from Southwest Louisiana.
Go on.
There are lots of sauce piquant cooking happening. It was always around tailgating or football parties. But it was never chicken, it was always alligator or turtle or shrimp. So the chicken spin on it is new for me.
Okay, well, Yeah, so the thing about sauce piquant, yes, it's a classic Louisiana staple, and it's pretty much been used to cook or stew down every type of game imaginable that we have in Louisiana. Alligator sauce piquant, squirrel sauce piquant, chicken sauce piquant like we're doing today, but you could go seafood. It's very versatile sauce. But what the word literally translates from is it's derived from the word piquant, which means spicy or prickly in French, and it's just this nice dark roux and tomato gravy that we're going to make, and it's going to have a little bit of a kick in it, and we'll get to that in a second, but that's what sauce piquant means. So just to kind of catch up on the roux here, we browned off our chicken, we threw our flour in, I got this on high, and I'm just starting to whisk this flour into the oil, and we're starting to make that roux. I always like to show, I find this always shows the best. Look, if you look here right now, we're only at the blonde roux stage. So this wooden spoon is a great example of, you can see the color. You can see the color of this wooden spoon, and you can see the roux itself is the same color as that. And what we're looking to make is a dark roux. So there's no way to get around it. We just leave the pan on high and then high heat, and then we just occasionally whisk it. And it's going to kind of start to darken up real quickly. You'll see we're going to do this here in real time. So we're just kind of waiting for that to get a little dark. But you do want to, you don't have to, you can take a break every now and then, but you want to pretty much constantly just keep this moving, because we are cooking on high heat, and what can very easily happen is that the flour that settles on the bottom of the pan can start to burn, and you get these little bits of burnt black specks. Now you actually see, if you look here, there's a couple of black specks here, but that's actually from the pepper of the chicken. So we're not worried about that. But if you do notice that you start to get those black specks from the flour, well, there's no two ways around it. Those little black specks are burnt bits of roux. And you basically have to start over and just dump that, which I've done before as a chef. As a chef, I've burnt everything that you can burn. But you can go ahead and just start over, because there's no two ways around it. Once you've got that burnt flavor, even those little bit of specks in your roux, because this is going to just stew for like an hour, eventually that burnt bitter flavor from the roux will eventually permeate everything that you're cooking in this pot. So you got to just dump it, throw it away. But to avoid that, we're just going to keep stirring. Now, I just showed you just a comparison. We started off and it was the same color. You can see right here, I'm holding it up, starting to get a little bit darker. Like everything, friends, at any point you have any questions, please don't hesitate to drop a comment. Hit that share button. We love interacting with you guys. And it looks like Jesse might even have a question now. What you got, Jess?
We're having some technical difficulties. The second camera's not working, so
Okay.
keep that in mind.
Okay, no problem. No problem. I mean, me and Justin, we try to do our best here, but at the end of the day, I'm a chef, not a filmographer, so we really try. But thanks for letting us know. But yeah, right now that roux right here is really starting to get a little bit dark very quickly now. So because we're cooking on high heat, it starts to change very rapidly. Whereas we started off, it was the same color. Now it's starting to get that peanut butter color. We're actually almost there. I'm just going to stir it just a second or two, and then we're going to switch to our spoon, and we're going to keep cooking. But yeah, whenever you are cooking with this pot, I mean, look at all this smoke coming out of here, and I am cooking on high. You just want to keep it moving, and your roux will come together pretty quickly. Let me show you now. We're actually at the point that I want to be. So look at that now. We started off same color as a spoon. Now we're that dark color. Once we get to that point, I switch to my handy dandy spoon. A wooden spoon is great, but any spoon will do. And now I'm going to throw in my onion, celery, bell pepper. I just always love to highlight. A lot of times when I cook these down-home recipes, even whenever I do them at home, oftentimes I take I want to show you, I love showing little shortcuts you can do. If you don't feel like chopping all your onions and stuff at home, you can go to the store. Oftentimes our stores here in Louisiana already has our trinity, our onion, celery, and bell pepper, pre-chopped and already mixed together. And man, that's a great tool. I use them all the time. You could just buy it just like that and you're ready to go. So in goes our onion, celery, bell pepper. And we're just going to kind of stir that in. And what's going to happen is always be careful when you add those onions, celery, bell pepper. Look at all the steam that comes up. That can actually burn you. I want you to be very careful when you do this because, cooking roux is like Cajun napalm. It's very hot. That's why we start off with a whisk. It keeps I like using a whisk because you're less likely to splash that hot oil onto your hands, which I've done several times. And be careful of that steam. The steam can be very hot as well. Now look, when you add that onion, celery, bell pepper, the roux will continue to get dark. Look at that. We started out, the roux was a blonde roux, the same color as the spoon. Now it's that dark chocolatey color, and that's what we're looking for. So our onions and celery, bell pepper cooked. Now I'm going to add a little bit of minced garlic, and then because we're making this tomato brown gravy, I'm now going to add a dollop of tomato paste into here. And I like adding the tomato paste into the roux at this step and working that tomato paste into our roux. And what this hot roux is actually going to do is just toast that tomato paste just a little bit, and it's all going to come together for our thickening agent of this sauce. Everybody with me? Real quick, let me just pull this up for you so we can all see what it looks like. But look at this now. This is everything we're working with. This is a beautiful, classic Cajun dark roux. You could use this now to make anything. Now, if we're making gumbo, you probably want to put the tomato in, but you can add your stock to it. Now you have a base for a gumbo. We make crawfish stew. This would be a base for a great crawfish stew, but we're making sauce piquant. So let's kind of just keep going to the next step. Here I have some chicken stock. This is a quart of chicken stock. I'm going to add a little bit of chicken stock, blend it in, add a little chicken stock, blend it in. The reason I do that, still cooking on high heat, because anytime most thickeners, whether it's roux, whether it's cornstarch, won't reach its true thickening potential until it boils. So if you add a little in, let it come up to a boil, add a little in, let it come up to a boil, you can really control how thick you want your gravy to be, instead of just dumping it all at once and hope it thickens to the perfect thickness. You add a little bit in, and then whisk it in, let it thicken, and say, okay, that's too thick, and keep adding your stock in, keep working that stock in until you achieved that thickness that you are looking for. But I'm going to dump all that in. Again, all our recipes are found at our Houmas House website, houmashouse.com. There's a part of the menu that says resources. If you click that, one of the little drop-down menu, you'll see recipes, and that's where you will find everything we've ever cooked here. So definitely give that a check. Okay, so once we have our stock fully incorporated here, if you're making a gumbo, you could almost stop now, or a stew, but we're going to now add our tomato products. Let me show you what we're working with. Just working with stuff we got from a can. I have a can of diced tomatoes. That's going to go in. And then I like adding also a can of these Rotel tomatoes. If you're not familiar with the Rotel tomatoes, they're diced tomatoes with a little bit of diced jalapeno in it as well, and they got a little bit of a kick. And that is absolutely perfect for what we're trying to cook here today with this sauce piquant, which is this spicy, dark roux red gravy. So having those little bit of peppers in there is great. However, if you don't have access to the Rotel tomatoes, just add another can of diced tomatoes is fine. And then you can season it how you like. If you wanted to add some diced jalapeno, that would be fantastic. If you wanted to come back later with some dashes of hot sauce to add some heat, that would be fantastic as well. Now, once we're to this point, let me kind of show you what we're working with here. Now we have this beautiful kind of red and dark gravy, and this is just classic Cajun cooking. You know, Cajun cooking is very much that gumbo style of throw everything to a pot and just let it simmer away and really let those flavors develop. So once we get to the point where this is in, we want to just let it simmer, and we're going to come back and we're going to put this chicken back into it. Now you can use any chicken you want. I'm leaving the chicken whole because this is how I'm going to serve it at the restaurant. I actually take, and we'll be able to easily kind of fish out from the gravy those chicken breasts, but you can add whole chicken legs in here. You can add chicken on the bone and brown that off and add chicken at the bone. You can have diced your chicken breast and thrown diced in and where it's just real easy to eat. All that is fantastic, but we're just happen to use whole chicken breast, just keeping it nice and easy. And now we're at a point where we want to add a little bit of seasoning to it. Let me show you what I'm working here because there's a couple unique things. I got some parsley. That's going to go in. Again, we were talking about spice. So a great way to add spice, and I always say I'm a wimp when it comes to spice, so I don't like too much heat, but I don't mind a good, well-rounded seasoning. So I'm going to add just a little shake of cayenne pepper. You got to be careful with that cayenne pepper because it is very spicy. But we're going to put a little bit in because I do want it to have just a little bit of a kick. And then let me show you, this is one thing that might seem a little odd, but I'm going to shake a little bit. It's like 1 or 2 tablespoons of sugar. The reason we're adding sugar in is to counteract, oftentimes, whether you're making marinara sauce or something that has tomato in it, oftentimes sugar is a great seasoning to add just a touch of. It helps balance out a lot of the acidity you get from the tomato. So just by adding a little bit of sugar, I'm not trying to make this sweet by any means, but that'll help balance out a lot of the acidity you get from the tomatoes. So a little sugar goes in, and there you go, guys. We're at the point now where we just let that simmer away. You just want to see a couple little bubbles. You can put a lid on it or leave it off, and you just kind of crank the heat down to where you just have a couple bubbles every now and then. And then you let it cook. You let it cook for about 45 minutes or until the meat starts to get real tender. By that chicken, just by browning it off, the chicken's going to mostly cook. However, just let it simmer in there, and you're going to just let all these flavors marinate. You're going to mellow out that roux flavor, because whenever you really have to cook roux for a little bit to mellow out some of that strong flavor that it has. So that'll start to happen. And then you'll also start to get all these flavors will just start to beautifully meld together. We do want to come back, season it with, like everything we do, we're going to season it with a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. You know, I'm not to sound like a broken record, but I always season my salt. If you ever see me, I always use my hands. I always love having a container of kosher or sea salt available to me, because that way I love seasoning with my salt like that instead of with a shaker, because with a shaker I never have a feel for how much salt I'm actually putting in the dish, but having that coarse salt, I can really feel how much salt I am putting in here. And man, like all good Cajun dishes, look, you just stir it every 5 minutes, you swing by, you give it a little stir, and you just let that bubble away. And if you could smell this right now, it smells absolutely fantastic. At the end, I like to come back, and after this is stewed away for, about 45 minutes or so, that chicken will be tender. I like to come back with a little bit more fresh parsley and green onions right at the end. They really add this great vibrance and freshness, but I don't like putting them in at the beginning. I did add a little bit of parsley just to get it in there, but I like to finish it off as well. And then right whenever I add that in, I'll turn my flame off, and that is done. Now to serve this, I almost forgot. Worcestershire, if you like a little Worcestershire sauce. That's fantastic as well. We can put a couple little shakes of this, and this is really where you can kind of customize it to yourself. Hot sauce, perfect. Anything like that, anytime you want to add some flavors, this is definitely time you can just taste it, season it, and see if it's flavored how you want it. Now to serve this bad boy, could it be easier? Because, you know, this is Cajun cooking. We're not doing nothing crazy here. You know, we're going to serve this with some rice. So I'm going to put a nice, generous serving of rice on a plate. We're going to come back and get some of this chicken that's kind of stewed away. Again, we would let this cook for about 45 minutes, but you get a feeling for what we got here. Just get some of that chicken on here. Let's get another one out here. I'm going to put a little extra on here because, you know, this portion's for Jessie. So, you know, she's going to eat it all. And let's see. And then you need lots of gravy for your sauce piquant. So we're going to put a lot of that gravy on, and we're going to come back with a little bit more of those green onions that we set to the side. And there you have it. Your Louisiana classic Cajun dish, your sauce piquant. We're doing chicken sauce piquant, which we'll be serving in our restaurant this weekend, Friday and Saturday for lunch. However, this is versatile. You could make anything sauce piquant. So any game, fantastic. Seafood, fantastic. Poultry or any meat, all works. It's very versatile. And, you know, this is comfort food for me. This is something that any good Louisiana boy or girl grew up on, and we just love serving it as well. And it's one of those things that just feels soulful to me whenever we get to cook it. What's your favorite comfort food? Give me a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you love to cook. And hey, if it's something we haven't done yet that you might inspire me to be one of the next dishes that we cook. But with that said, thank y'all so much for tuning in. Y'all take care out there.